Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today, I have a subscriber from Ohio who is going to share his very terrifying and very interesting encounters with the Dogman and possible Sasquatch. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below, my merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And last, but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe, click the like button, and please leave a comment. It really does help, and it does matter. And now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? All right, everybody. Tonight I have a subscriber who has been on the channel before a long time ago and shared one of his encounters with us that he had with his brother. Randy, how are you today?
Doing good.
Good to have you on. Thank you for taking some time to come back on. Now, I know that you'd been on here and you had shared an experience that you and your brother went through. But you reached out to me and said, I had been listening to your channel, and this story I heard on your channel kind of jogged my memory, and I remembered something, and I said, well, why don't you come back on and, share all your experiences if you'd like again. And sure enough, you said yes. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you. That way you can do the talking.
Okay. Like I said, my name's Randy. I'm actually going to be 69 years old this fall, and but this happened back in, I would imagine it was like the 70s, probably early 70s, probably 1970, because I graduated high school in 71. And like I said, me and some of my friends, had three buddies, we were out shooting guns, and it started pouring the rain down, so we all got in the Jeep and started driving around, and drove around, and there's a place around here called the Hocking Hills, and we were driving around down in the Hocking Hills, and come on from a blacktop road onto an old gravel road, got on it, drove for a good while, and then got off it, found an old dirt road, got on it, drove on it for a long time, good while, and then finally we got on this, I'd call it a goat path. It was two tracks, and we drove down the hill, drove down over a bank, and come into a place, and it opened up, and it was just like a town. There was probably 12, 15 buildings there. When we first pulled into the place, my friend that was in the front seat with me, he says, "What the hell was that? You see that?" I said, "I didn't see it," because it was raining. And he said, "Man, I don't know what that was, but he said it was huge." He said, that was I said, "What did it look like?" He said, "It looked like a great big tall man." And I said, "Well, maybe it was Bigfoot." Just kind of laughed it off. Well, the next thing I knew, we were getting pummeled by limbs and branches and trees and everything else that you could think of. I mean, rocks that was probably half the size of a bowling ball, maybe even size of a bowling ball. The rock was big enough it cracked my windshield on my Jeep. Well, when all this stuff started, I threw it in reverse, was trying to find me a spot to get turned around. Got turned around. We hauled ass out of there. My buddy's in the back seat. He says, "Did you see that?" I said, "I didn't see anything. I'm just trying to get out of here." He said, this thing was chasing us. And he said it was gaining on us. He said it was huge. He said, "This thing was huge." I said, "How tall was it?" He said, "If it was 8 foot," he said, "if it wasn't 8 foot, it wasn't an inch tall." He said, "I'm going to tell you right now." He said, "It was huge." And I said, "What did it look like?" He said, "It looked like a great big tall man." And to put the town in perspective, it looked like it had an old grocery store, and it looked like it had a blacksmith shop or like some sort of a blacksmith shop or something like that. And the buildings had none of the buildings had doors or glass in them. Everything was broke out. So if it was somebody there that was, but what we couldn't understand is how many rocks we got hit with all at once.
Right.
We just ton of them. There was rocks hit us and on the top of the Jeep and on the hood of the Jeep, and like I said, cracked my windshield. And like I said, we turned around, and got out of there as fast as we could. And I've never been back. I've never been able to find the place. I've been down through there a couple of times. I've looked on a lot of old maps trying to find that town, and I couldn't find it. And I never did able to find it.
Wow.
So
now, I know you've never been able to find it, but how long were you guys driving for before you found the town?
Probably 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
4 hours.
So you guys were deep.
We weren't driving fast. Now I'm just saying,
right.
Once you got off the blacktop, it was, we was probably driving 25 or 30 mile an hour because it was just an old gravel road. And then once we got onto this old dirt road, we was probably running a little less than that. But once we got onto this thing that looked like a goat path, we was just barely creeping. But we was probably 4 hours at least driving around back in there, until we started getting pelted with the rocks, and then we got out there fast as we could. So. Or I did, anyhow.
Yeah.
My buddies could have stayed there if they wanted to, but none of them sure did jump out of the Jeep, I can tell you. So.
That's terrifying. That is terrifying.
Well, it scared me. Like I said, I've thought several times I'd like to go back and find that. And
yeah.
I went there, me and the same couple of buddies, we went there and tried to find it a couple of different times, but we never could find the road that it was on, And, of course, it might have been that, it was for several years before we ever went back, and the goat path road could have grown up in trees that you wouldn't even know it was a road by then, So just don't know what it was, but I didn't see it. I just know my two buddies, they both said there was a great big huge tall man chasing us, and one of them said that run into that what looked like a blacksmith shop or something like that, And he said that thing run in there, and I said, well, I didn't see it. And like I said, it was raining, and windshield wipers on an old Jeep ain't the best, so I couldn't see nothing. I was just watching where I was going. So
that's insane. So after that, we've got a long gap of time, almost 20 years probably.
Close to it, yeah.
Yeah. And you and your brother are out hunting, and I'll let you finish that and kind of set the mood for us on that one.
Well, that day my brother and I always went hunting down on a farm that we've hunted on this farm since I started hunting there in 1966. So I've hunted there for years, never seen anything, never heard anything, nothing. I've never been afraid to be out on the farm, daylight, dark, don't matter. Well, this day, the first day we went down, and my stepson went with us. Well, I dropped him off up on a different spot. Me and my brother went down and got on our stands, and we stand there and sat there. Never seen a thing all day. Sat there till dark, So we go up and pick up my stepson. And he said, which we never noticed until he said, but he said, did you notice how quiet the woods was today? And, kind of jogged his own. Yeah, we never did hear nothing. Never seen a deer, no squirrels, no birds, no nothing. It was just quiet, yeah. And which was very unusual for the woods that we was in. There's always squirrels and birds and fluttering around and flying around, and squirrels moving around on the ground. But the second day, it was just me and my brother. So we got up early, went down there and got in the stand, and got in our stands, walked down in there and got on our stands. He was probably 50 yards below me, past me. And I was sitting kind of back into the woods. And I don't know, it's probably 10:30 maybe. I hear my brother's gun go off, boom, and he's shooting, and I thought he might have been shooting at a deer. So I stepped out of the brush where I could see down where he was, and it wasn't no deer. It looked like a big German Shepherd dog running on his hind legs. And I shot it. He shot 4 times in the chest, and I shot it once in the shoulder, and then I hit it in the head. I shot it in its head, and that's what killed it. But when it killed it, he was close enough to my brother. The arms, of course, was real long, and the arms looked like a raccoon's hand. and it slashed at him and cut my brother's left shoulder. Cut his left shoulder open, and kind of on his chest and left shoulder. And he had a Carhartt coat on and a pair of Carhartt bibs, and plus 2 or 3 shirts, and it cut through all that and cut his shoulder. That lacerated his shoulder. And so this thing was laying there on the ground, and I get him picked up, get him gathered up, and we're talking about what the hell is that? We don't know what's going on. We're like lost because we don't even know what this thing could be. So we go up to my uncle's house, and my uncle's wife called the squad, and of course she put it down. It was an animal bite, and or an animal attack, I guess is what it was. So squad comes, and the sheriff comes, and 2 Department of Natural Resource guy come in, and I got a friend that was a second in line for the game warden guys. He's hunting on a couple farms down. He heard it, and he come over there, and of course they're asking my brother all these questions, and he said, I don't know what it was. It looked like a wolf on its hind leg. Of course, they ain't paying attention to it. They thought he's nuts. And so they got my brother all loaded up in the squad, took him to the hospital. And these guys, I was telling them what it was. I was trying to tell them too. They didn't believe me. So I loaded him up in an old Jeep and took him down to where it was at. And laying there, bigger than crap, this thing was laying there, and it was, I say it looked like, to me, it looked like the Van Helsing werewolf. It's what it looked like, what I could tell of it, his face. And big thing, great big, big legs, arms weren't like big, but they were bigger than a man's, but they were real muscular looking, and his legs was too. But it had looked like what you would call a man's body.
Right.
And you could tell it was a male. You could tell that it was a male. It had a tail that, I don't know, kind of curved or curled at one time, or that's what it looked like to me. Of course, when I shot at it and my brother shooting at it, we weren't really looking at its tail. We just seen it was running at him, But we got down there, and when we got down there, I looked at it, and it had, I say hands, or it looked more like, if you know what a raccoon's front paws and rear paws look like, that's what it looked like to me, only like it was like a size 12, okay? It was huge. It was ginormously big. And, like I said, its feet were really big. Its hands and its claws looked like just an extension of it. It didn't look like fingernails. It looked just like an extension of its finger. It just come out. They were probably, 3 inches long anyhow. And this thing had teeth like you wouldn't believe. These canine teeth that it had were like unbelievably. I mean, they were long. I mean, they was probably 3 or 4 inches long, these canine teeth were. And like I said, this happened all, like I said, in the late 80s, early 90s. I'm not sure anymore. It's been so many years ago.
Right.
I don't really remember, but I know it was the late 80s, early 90s.
Now, really quick, the when you had sent me this, your friend there that worked for the wildlife, they had taken a picture of the creature.
All these guys took pictures of it.
Yeah.
The sheriff's department had a camera. The Department of Natural Resources guys had a camera. The game warden guys had cameras. There must have been, after this thing come out and they got on the radio, there must have been 10 guys showed up down there.
Yeah.
And they all had cameras, were taking pictures. Of course, this was way before I ever had a cell phone. This was years before I ever had a cell phone. But they had cameras. The one guy that was my friend from the game warden department, he had like a nice 35 millimeter camera. I mean, it had big long lens, because when he hunted, he took pictures of the deer too. That's what he did. Okay. And but they all had, they all had cameras, and they were supposed to file a report and all that. And like I said, I told my friend, I said, can you get me a picture of that? Yeah. I said, we're going to want pictures of this. I want pictures of this. And he said, oh, sure, no problem. I'll get these pictures for you. And so I said, are you guys wanting help loading this up in that truck? Because they had a pickup truck right there. And they said, no, we'll get it in the morning. And I said, okay. So I went and come up and went down out and got my brother. And got him, and he said he's saying that said they're saying some guy in here is crazy. He said, I hope we don't let him over here, you know. Let's talk about Rick, because Rick kept saying, this ain't a dog bite, because that's what they kept calling it, was a dog bite.
Right.
He said, this ain't a dog bite. He said, this is a wolf. This is a wolf's claw scratch. This was a wolf. He said it was huge. He said it was probably 8 feet tall. It was, and it was going to eat me. He said, we shot it. And of course, they had 2 deputies there, and the hospital staff, 2 security guys from the hospital staff standing there with him. And he was saying that he heard someone out there say, you know, there's a crazy guy in there. You know, there's a crazy guy. And Rick said, he told that one sheriff, he said, man, I hope you guys don't let that crazy guy in here. Said, I ain't got no way to defend myself. And Rick come find out later that's talking about him. So, you know, that's meaning Rick, that, you know, the crazy guy that's talking about it was a werewolf attacked me, because he told him, he said it was a werewolf. He said, This thing was a werewolf. And of course, they're all looking at him like he's nuts, you know, and, you know, and like I said, that's probably what I would have done too if someone would have told me that.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen it, you know, I you know. So, but like I said, we've never told nobody this. You're the first guy I ever told this, Jeff. I mean, I've never told this story to nobody. My mother knew it. My wife knew it. My second wife knew it. And Rick's wife knew it, but none of his kids knows anything about this. Nobody else knows about this.
Right.
Nobody, you know. First off, I don't want anybody to think we're crazy, you know.
Yeah.
Around here, people would think we was nuts. Some of them, you know. But I just, like I said, you're the first guy I ever told this story to, and like I said, you can believe me or you don't gotta believe me. I don't care what happens. I just know what happened when I was a young man. You know, that this all happened when we was young men. Me and my brother were young men. Yeah. And anyhow,
well, with that, they left the pickup truck was there overnight, right?
Well, at that time they had like a 4-wheel drive Jeep station wagon. They were getting them as new. Okay. You know, they were bringing, I don't know what they were called, wagoneers or something. And they brought a guy in down there to supposed to watch it that night, you know, and sit there, and he supposed to stay there awake and watch this thing. I had a new guy. It was a new guy. And, you know, he said every once in a while he'd supposed to wake up or turn his headlights on, make sure there wasn't nothing to eat on it, because they thought something might come to eat on it, like a coyote or something. And they wanted it not to be ate on. But the guy, me and Rick, well, let me tell you this other. I went and got Rick at the hospital and brought him home. He wanted to go down there and take pictures of this thing. I said, well, we'll wait. They're not going to get it till tomorrow. I said, excuse me, me and you'll get up early, and we'll go down there early in the morning, and we'll take pictures of this thing. Rick said, okay. So anyhow, in the meantime, he's telling me the story. Of course, I didn't see this thing until I shot at it. But Rick said he was sitting there on a stump. He said he watched there was 3 of them come across this field, this big cornfield. And he said he never paid any attention to them. He thought they were dogs, because he said a neighbor, you know, we know had a neighbor, a couple of farms would have been to the east, had German Shepherds and Doberman Pinschers. And we wasn't. You know, Rick said, I just put my head down. He said, I kind of had my head down where I could look under my hat just so I could keep an eye on him. And he said, they was coming down through there. And he said, all of a sudden, the big one just stopped, looked at him. And he said, it looked like it grinned at him. He said, it showed his teeth. He said, he thought sure it was looking like it was grinning at him. He said, the other 2 ran down toward what would have been south to the river, you know, or towards the river. And this one here, Rick said, he put the safety off his gun and said this thing stood up on its hind legs and made a charge at him. It was about 150, 125 yards away from him. And he said he stood up to shoot the thing. He said he shot it 5 times in the chest. You could see where the bullets hit it, you know. And I shot it once in the shoulder, like I said, in the right shoulder. And then I shot it which would have been sort of kind of the right temple or the right eye area, you know. And when I shot it, that's when it put it down.
Now, what were you guys using for round rifles that day?
I had which you're not supposed, at this time, you weren't supposed to hunt with these guns or what we was hunting with. My brother had a 358 Winchester, and I had I think it was a Winchester 308 or a Ruger 308. I can't remember anymore. We still got them, but don't use them much, because you're allowed to hunt with rifles here now. So anyhow, but you weren't supposed to be hunting with them. That's what we had. And this 358, I'm telling you, it'll jolt you when you shoot this thing. It'll kick crap out of you to shoot it. And like I said, it didn't. Rick said when he shot that thing, he said all 5 rounds hit it. He said didn't even act like it phased him. Said when I shot it in the shoulder, it didn't act like it bothered it any. He said, but when I hit it in the head, that's what put it down. Stopped it. But like I said, it went from 150 yards to right was. This thing probably had a reach of, good 6 foot reach on it. It had great big long arms on it. So if it got within 6 feet of my brother before we killed it, it died. So.
Wow.
But like I said, but anyhow, well, that we come down, go back down there to get pictures of it the next day, and this boy from the DNR, he's panicking. He's up there at my uncle's house panicking because this thing's gone. And he said, I said, it's gone. I said, it's dead. I said, it was dead when we left down there. I don't know, but they said, it's gone now. So we took and went down there, and it was gone. Come back up, and all these guys from the DNR come in, and this guy, he said that, sat down there, and he said, you could hear all kinds of howling. He said, he just figures coyotes. But he said, it's howling and carrying on all down there around the woods. And he said, kind of freaked him out. And he said, about 3 o'clock, it kind of quit, 3 or 3:30. And he said he was sitting there, and he said next thing he knew, it was getting daylight. That's what woke him up, was the sun shining in the truck. And he said when he looked up, said that thing was gone. But when he got out, he said it looked like something had scratched his door on both sides, trying to get in the door of his vehicle, and had tried all 4 doors. This is a 4-door vehicle. Said it had tried all 4 doors. Said you could see a handprint, a palm print, or whatever on every door that this thing had tried to open up the latch on that door to get in that vehicle. And he said he never heard anything, I told them guys, I said, you guys should have took this with you yesterday, but hindsight's 20/20, But,
yeah. Now your friend from Ohio, the one that said he would pass you on those pictures, as years went by, he still never admitted to having those pictures, right?
I'm gonna tell you, Jeff. Let me tell you, I seen him 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God!
First thing I asked him, I said, "Hey, now that you're retired, what'd you do with them pictures?" He said, "What pictures?" I said, "The pictures that we took down at the farm at that wolf thing." "I don't know what you're talking about, Randy." He said, "There ain't no such pictures." He said, you must have been having a dream at night, or you must have been having a dream." I said, "I know better." I said, "I was there." I said, "Rick's got the scar on his shoulder still." I said, "You was there. I was there." I said, I can't think of all the 2 or 3 of the sheriff guys that I know that was there. And I've asked them, and like they said, they don't know anything about it. And they were supposed to write a report up about it, about being an animal attack, but there's nothing. Sheriff department doesn't have nothing.
Wow.
About an animal attack. So yeah, I just seen him 2 weeks ago. I seen him up at the store. I said, "Hey, what'd you do? Now that you're retired, what'd you do with them pictures?"
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of pictures you're talking about. Played dumb.
Yeah, because I remember he had, at the first time you had approached him, he had said when you were in the field, "Yeah, I'll get him to you," and then he had seen you later on and said, "Yeah," or kind of pushed you off, and then kind of just ignored you. That's great that you saw him 2 weeks ago, though.
Well, it's like this, OJ. I've seen this guy. I'd be afraid to say 100 times since all this, maybe more. I've actually done work at his house over the years, with bulldozers and backhoes and stuff.
Yeah.
And every time I see him, that's the first thing I see. "Where's those pictures at?" "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "There ain't no pictures. Nobody took no pictures." Well, they sure was snapping a bunch of things with empty cameras if they weren't taking pictures.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, there was 2 guys from the sheriff's department. He was taking pictures. There was 2 other game warden guys there taking pictures because they were taking the report and show was the sheriff's department. But there must have been 10 10 guys there total taking pictures.
Now,
You
when
know,
when they were taking the report, were they measuring it or anything? Were they?
yeah, they had a like what you call like a 10-foot tape, and it was, it was probably 8 foot tall or taller. From what you could tell from the
Right.
feet to the, to the top of the head.
Hmm.
But but it probably weighed this thing. I'm not kidding you. This thing probably weighed 500 pounds. I mean, it's huge.
Wow.
I mean, and there wasn't a stitch of anything that looked like fat on it. It was all just nothing but muscle. I mean, its calves and thighs were humongously big, and its feet was real long. I mean, his foot was 8 or 9, 10 inches, 12 inches long. I mean, it was huge. I mean, this thing was huge. And its claws, its front hands were probably, 4 times bigger than a big man's hand. Like a gorilla, it probably made a gorilla's hand look small. But the claws and the teeth were what the craziest part of this thing was. It looked like, actually the teeth on it was the canine, but it looked like it had double row of teeth.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, that's been so many years ago. I can still see it somewhat.
Right.
But I mean, it's crazy. But I've hunted down there ever since, and I've never seen anything until this year when I seen something that finally.
Your brother stopped hunting and you didn't.
I tell me again, Jeff.
Your brother, he stopped hunting, right?
Oh yeah, he doesn't. No, he doesn't hunt at all. No, he quit hunting right after that happened.
Yeah.
Or let me say, he may have hunted the next year, but he quit hunting very quickly after that.
Okay.
So.
All
But
right.
like I said, I've never been afraid. I've been hunted down there, and I've never seen another one of these things. Down there. Of course, now I've always. Since I seen this thing, I don't hunt on the ground no more. I built me a tree stand down there, so I'm up high up in the air, probably 15 or 20 feet in the air.
Okay.
So, but I don't know if you want me to tell you about this next story about the one that I seen this year.
Yeah. If you'd like,
Okay.
yeah, keep it going.
Well, my great nephew hunted with me ever since he's a little boy. I mean, he never hunted much. He always went with me ever since he was 3 years old. He'd go with me and he'd sit in a tree stand with me. And we never saw anything. And I don't know, last 10 years or so, he's probably hunted in his own tree stand. But I would never let him hunt on the ground. I always made him get a tree stand to stand in because I don't want nothing on the ground that, come up behind you or whatever,
Right.
And anyways, we went down there the Monday morning, first day of deer season. We went down there and I'm sitting in my stand, he's sitting in his stand, and up the road there comes these 2 things that look like great big dogs. I mean, huge dogs. And actually they look kind of like hyenas walking, how they walked. But I never thought much about it. I thought, it can't be them things again because I haven't seen them things in 20 years. So it's not that. It must be a dog. Watched it go up the road. There's another farm road over. We watched it go up there. And my great nephew, he called me and he said, "Did you see this, Uncle Randy?" I said, "Yeah, I see it." I said, "It looks like great big dogs." He said, "Don't look like dogs to me." He said, "They're walking funny." I said, "Yeah, they're odd looking." But we didn't see any deer that day, and the woods were dead quiet again, like that day down there. I mean, it was just dead quiet. So we hunted all day and come up out of there and left. And next day we went back down there and got in our stands, and we're sitting there, and it's the same time, about 10 or 10:30. Both times we seen them. These things come walking up the road again. And I'm watching them, and I got me a better pair of binoculars to take with me this time. So I'm looking, and they look like hyenas walking. They look like a hyena, only they was black. I mean, that's how a hyena walks. It walks funny, when it's walking.
Yeah.
And this thing walked really funny. I mean, they walked funny. And it got on up the road there, and I couldn't see it up the road. I got past where I could see, and my great nephew called me on the phone real quick, and he says, "Uncle Randy, did you see this?" I said, "No, I didn't see anything. What happened?" I said, "Them things walking up the road." I said, "That's just dogs or coyotes." He said, "A coyote or a dog don't stand up on its hind legs and walk." He said, the one thing stood up on its hind legs and walked down around the edge of the woods and walked into the woods behind me, coming in behind me. I said, "You stay right in your stand." I said, "I'm coming your way." So I got out of my stand and I went. There's a big cornfield we hunt out of in the front of us. So I stayed way out, 20 or 30 yards out in the cornfield. So I could, if anything come out of the brush, I could at least get a shot at it. So I went on, got up there to where he was. I hollered at him, told him, I said, come on, get down out there. So he come down there and he said, I don't know what that was. He said, but both of them went in the woods. Said the one was walking on its hind legs. I said, oh, hard to tell what it is, because I don't want him. I don't want to scare him. I don't want to scare him. You know, I don't. You know, he's 20 years old. I don't want him to be afraid to hunt.
And he's never. And the thing is he's never heard any of your family talk about you or your brother's account with one of these things.
Because like I said, my mother was the only one that knew. She passed away. My wife was the only one that knew. She passed away. I think Rick's wife knew, but she's passed away. And we've never, ever told the kids. Rick never told Rick's kids, my kids. We never told them. We've never told them anything. So there's nothing to tell Ricky, the grandkid.
Right.
You know, there was nothing to tell him. You know, nobody was to tell him anything. So, but anyhow, he doesn't know anything about it. No, he doesn't. He doesn't know what it is. He didn't know what they were. I mean, and it was far enough away he could see it, but he couldn't tell what it was. He could say it just looked like a big German Shepherd dog, and that's what this thing looked like, only about 3 times as big. You know, that we shot. So anyhow, I got up where he was, and he got out of his stand, and he's shaking. I mean, she's shook up. He said, I don't know what that was. He said, but I could hear something in behind my stand. He said, I could hear back in there. Said I could hear something sound like a scratching on the trees. I said, well, we're going up there and get out of here. I said, I ain't gonna hunt down here tomorrow. I said, if you hunt, you might want to hunt out the other farm. He said, I'm not going to hunt down here either. So we haven't been back since deer season back in December. You know. So.
And that field or that set of woods is. I asked you the question when we were talking privately, but just for the video, that set of woods is how far from where you and your brother shot that first Dogman?
Oh, I don't know, 700 yards, 600 yards.
Yeah.
You know, it's not any far. I mean, you walk out of where my tree stand is and walk out and go to the left for 400 yards at where Ricky's stand is. You know, so, you know, and if you go, I don't know, 50 yards to the right, you go down to where Rick shot that thing and I shot that thing, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Now, I don't know if that one bit that you had told me happened after or before, but when you guys were driving, apparently he had saw something or.
Yeah. Well, I kind of forgot about that, but when we went, the first day we went hunting, that we seen these things, we were going down the road, and my nephew says, of course, we was kind of running a little late that morning. It was getting daylight. He said, did you see that? I said, what was it? He said, something run out of that shed and run down over that hill. I said, what did it look like? He said, it looked like a big wolf or a big dog. I said, so we pulled up there and got out and looked around, went in the shed, looked around, didn't see anything. Looked down over the hill a little ways and got back in the vehicle, left, went down to hunted, got back up into the. Then the next morning of the second morning that we left out there about 11 o'clock as fast as we could. We went on the way in. We was running late again. It was getting dark. Getting daylight. And I happened to see out of the corner of my eye this thing run from the shed down over the hill. And Ricky said, "Did you see that?" I said, "Yeah, I saw it this time." So we busted butt up there to get to that shed. Got up there to the building. Got out and looked all around and went over and looked in the shed. It looked like something had scraped a pile of gravel that was in this shed kind of up and had been laying in it, like in the middle of it. Like it made how a dog will scratch and make him a bed to lay down in?
Yeah.
That's what this looked like. Something had dug a scratched a spot out for a bed for a dog or something to lay in.
Or like a dog when it's a hot day and a dog's outside, they dig a little hole to kind of lay in to cool off.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
where it's cool.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly what he was doing. Yep.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's in that same vicinity. That little farm is in the same vicinity, pretty much, right?
Within a quarter of a mile.
Wow.
Yeah, half a mile maybe from it. It's on the same farm. It's just one farm. One of this is up closer to the highway, and the other part's down closer to the river.
Okay.
It's just one big farm. Well, it's 500-acre farm. but the road's a long ways to go down into where we's at. So
Yeah.
but then, like I said, 2 weeks later or so, I went down. There was a neighbor. He's probably 600 yards from where the edge of the wood line is, and maybe 800 yards from where I shot this thing. Me and my brother shot this thing. And but he's up on a big bank, and I went down there to ask him. I was just going to ask him if he'd seen anything odd, and because he's lived down there, oh my God, most of his life. And I went down there and I said, "Have you seen anything weird?" He said, "No, I've never seen anything weird." But he said, "I had something kill one of my dogs." And he's had 3 big German Shepherd dogs, and he had let it out one night. Said all 3 of them out, and said the one come running back with his tail between its legs. Said the other one come running back all tore up. Said it was just ripped to pieces. Said the other one he couldn't find, so he went out looking for it. Said there he found its head laying in the driveway, and its body looked like someone had just tore it in half. Just ripped it in up the middle, like from its chest to back down to its crotch. Just ripped it in half, and said strung guts everywhere out of it.
Wow.
And he said he got one that was tore all up, gathered it up, took it to the vet. And he said the vet told him it looked like a bear had got into it. Said it looked like he got in a fight with a bear someplace. Said that's as deep as the scratches was on this thing. And he said he was surprised that the dog would live. But he took, and after that, he said, I put up the lights that come on, motion detector lights. He said, I put them all up around the house. And he said, there's times at night, he said, the lights will come on. He said, and that's got to be something either moving or a limb or something. But he said he's never ever seen anything weird before. And he said, of course, he's always been somebody that comes in and farms the farm for him. So but he said, I've never seen anything crazy. He said, nothing. He said, that was the craziest thing I ever seen. And he said, that was just a couple days ago or a week ago. He told me that happened, before I was down there.
Yeah.
So
now, how many bear sightings have been in your area since you've lived there?
0 that I know of. Maybe one.
Okay.
Maybe one.
Yeah.
But 0 as far as I really know.
Okay. All right.
So.
Yeah.
Now there's been some bear sightings on down in towards Jackson, where Jackson is. There's some bear sightings, couple, not a lot, but that Jackson's a long ways from where this dog got tore up to Jackson. It's about 75 miles, so.
Wow. Yeah, that's just incredible that that location. And like I said, you and I had talked a little bit before doing this, and I kind of figure, and I ran it by you, and it's almost like they're using this zone to travel through, because the ones that you saw with your great nephew, the only resemblance were they were canine like and big. They didn't really look the exact same way. And maybe they're using this area to kind of travel through, as they're going from place to place, and that's why you're not seeing them every time you're out there. So
yeah, well, like I said, the only difference between the ones that me and my great nephew seen, they would have been going north up the old dirt gravel road, and the ones that my brother seen and one I shot, from what my brother talked, they would have been going south on the same on the 3 of them. So maybe that's just a corridor they travel through when they're coming through. But they were, when we went down there, me and my great nephew, there was no squirrels, no birds. I mean, the woods were like, there wasn't even any wind. It was so dead quiet, And normally you always have a squirrel running around in the woods, or a squirrel in the tree squawking at you, or the bird squawking at you, or a bird flying around. There's nothing. It was just dead silence, both days. So
yeah,
and that's how it was both days when when my stepson hunted with us that first morning that we killed that, or the second day that we killed one. He said it. Mandy said, "Notice how quiet the woods was. Never even paid any attention to it. We just till he said something about it. Then the next day, it was the same way, And like I said, at 10 or 10:30, this is when all this stuff happened. This thing was charging at my brother,
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, it's one of those just kind of encounters, experiences that you don't forget. When you told me it the first time, it really it just stayed with me because, the way everything went down, you're like, oh, maybe I can get me a deer. You hear him popping off, and nope, it's not a deer. It's a big monster.
Yeah.
No other word for it.
Like I said, I didn't see it until I stepped out. I was sitting back in the edge of the woods, and I just stepped out to see what he was shooting at, and there wasn't no deer. Like I said, it looked like a German Shepherd on about 400 steroids. I don't know what it was, but I mean, like I said, it looked to me like, you've seen this, like the Van Helsing movie Werewolf.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly, the face of it exactly looked like that. That's exactly what it looked like. I mean, the body wise, when he does that, pulls his chest on back, and I don't know. That's just what it looked like, And it was so funny because, and I know I've probably told you this before, but when it was running, it was lean forwards like a T-Rex does. Like a T-Rex runs, how it runs kind of slanted upward, forwards on when it's running at you.
Kind of like a hunched over look.
Yeah. But like I said, and what amazes me is my brother hit it 5 times. I shot it twice, and it took 7 rounds to kill it. So, I don't know what it would have happened if I had another,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Now, you said you had told, like, your mom and stuff. What was her reaction to the whole thing?
My mom was one of these kind of ladies that she knew that from the way me and my brother acted, we weren't lying. And she was scared to death for us to go down there and hunt anymore.
Mm.
She never wanted us to ever go hunt. But like I said, I went and hunted all the time. But through the summertime, I'd go down and I'd build me tree stands that were, 15 or 20 feet off the ground. And something that if it came to I had a ladder, and if it came to the ladder and tried to climb up the ladder, I'd have shot it. I'd have shot it in the face or whatever. But some of the stories I've been hearing that the guys talk to you about, I kind of wonder now if they don't climb trees. That's what worried me. After I started hearing them stories all the times that, maybe that's what this thing was doing with Ricky. It was climbing a tree behind him to try to get up higher above him, to see him or whatever. So, like I said, I don't know. I don't know nothing about him other than what I saw and what it was. But like I said, it's been a lot of years ago, all this. And like I told you before, I can't see where these stories that I'm telling you is all that exciting,
I mean, I think they are, to be honest with you. It's just like when you had reached out, I don't know, I forgot which encounter it was that you jogged your memory about the abandoned town one. And I didn't hear it until tonight, and you said, well, I don't know if it'll be good enough for, and then you shared it with me, and I'm just like, I don't know why you wouldn't think that would be interesting, because you guys randomly found a deserted kind of town, and then you got a barrage of rocks and sticks thrown at you by this large man thing. To me, that's interesting.
Well, and like I said, I didn't see it, whatever it was throwing the rocks.
Right.
But my 2 friends did. My 2 buddies did. And the one, he didn't see it throwing rocks, but he seen it go in a building that looked like a blacksmith building there. Like an old blacksmith. Well, like they have on Dodge City, Matt Dillon or Gunsmoke. The buildings. That's what the store looked like. That store that he goes in out of. That's what the front of the store looked like. The blacksmith shop looked like that. I mean, this had to be a very, 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 very old town.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I these are just things that happened to me. I just look at it that this just happened to me. I'm not, I don't think that they're, like I said, I just don't think where they're all that exciting for somebody. I can't see, be that exciting. They're just a story I know, So,
right. Well, to me they are interesting. And, I feel like that if you, like you said, you had actually said it. You were listening to the channel and you heard a story and it jogged your memory about the first abandoned town story that you'd heard. You had told me this Dogman encounter prior.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you didn't remember. So maybe hearing your story, hearing your experiences will help someone else jog their memory. Something that was stuffed, subconsciously, not realizing, hey, I that happened to me like 30 years ago.
Well, like I said, mine's probably been a little more than 30, probably closer to 45.
Right, right, right.
With the abandoned town. But like I said, I heard there was somebody on there telling a story there that night, and they was talking to you about some kind of an abandoned house. Oh, that what is that? Up in Alaska.
Yep. The Port Chatham area and stuff like that. Yeah.
They was talking about that, and it made me think, well, we've seen that some old buildings down there when we was out riding around, being ornery boys.
Yeah.
But like I said, it just, when they was talking about that, and I'm thinking, wow, that I can remember that now. Got to thinking about it a little bit. I could remember what happened. So.
Right.
But it was just a memory that, it was just a memory that I really didn't think that much about. I didn't think it was all that exciting, other than, it was pretty exciting when we got the rocks thrown at us and the sticks. That was pretty exciting. But like I said, it didn't scare me none. Like I said, if I could have found the place again, I'd go back to it. But they ain't never been able to find it. So.
Right. Yeah,
and I've looked on maps and everything. I've looked on all the old maps that I can find about that. There's nothing said anything about an old town being around there.
That's so weird. Yeah, it's insane. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing this with us again. I know I've got new subscribers, and I hadn't heard the first encounter, and I was like, well, if you're coming on, maybe you could share the other two with me, and I appreciate that, Randy. It really means a lot to me to have you come on and take some time out of your night to come on and share it with us.
Well, like I said, I've never told anybody the stories but you.
Yeah.
You're the, me and my brother's only two living now that know about it, other than you. And now, whoever your subscribers are, if they want to listen to it, that's good. But, they don't know who I am. You do,
right.
But they don't really know who I am. But, and I don't, I didn't come on here to tell these stories to be like, some kind of bullshit stuff, because I don't do that. I mean, I wouldn't waste your time.
Right.
That's the first thing I wouldn't do. But I think your stories that the people call in, it's pretty exciting, and they're really interesting to me. Mm-hmm. Even though, like I said, I'm almost 70 years old. That stuff like that's interesting to me. It's interesting to me to hear about it. Someone else's encounter. Right. I really enjoy it. So.
Now, your brother doesn't talk about the experience at all, does he?
Oh, no. When you first called and I told you I had to go and he pulled up here.
Yeah.
I got off the phone with you and he said, you got a girlfriend? I said, no. I said, that was the guy that I told our story to about the Wolfman stuff. He said, oh, you shouldn't tell that bullshit. He said, nobody's going to believe you that happened to us. I said, well, you got the scar on your arm. He said, oh, you can't even hardly see that anymore. I said, okay. I said, you want to talk to him too? He said, hell no. Say far to go left. So, he said, people going to think you're crazy. I said, well, people think that anyhow, whether I tell them the story or not.
Well, there's a lot more people that have experiences than that he knows of. So it's people are having these encounters and just stuffing them like he did, and not talking about them. And I think when people like you come on and share, and other people come on and share, it really does help people possibly come and share their other experiences. And so I appreciate you coming on. It really means a lot to me. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we end the interview? And do me a favor, don't hang up when we end the interview. I'd like to talk to you for a minute after.
Okay. Well, all I'm going to say is that, if anybody's got a story, they need to tell it. Like I said, I get excited when I hear new stories. I do. I mean, I get, that's interesting to me. That stuff like that's very, very interesting to me, especially someone had a close encounter or someone that actually have seen them. Like I
Yeah.
said, I know how scary these things are. I know how scary they are. I know what they look like. I know when they got their teeth out. I understand all that. But it's nice for someone to tell you and understand it with you. And I understand. I
Yeah.
understand it all now, So, and
Well,
like I said, I appreciate you letting me talk, tell my story. It makes me feel good that someone's even interested in it. So, I hope everybody in the comments are good to me and not real mean.
no, they won't be mean to you. You know 'em. So I appreciate it, Randy. It really means a lot that you came on and took some time out of your evening. So be good and stay safe. And like you said, you actually said when you go out hunting this fall, just because you're up in a stand, don't forget that they do climb. I
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah. And I'd have been a whole lot better if they hadn't heard that part of it.
I'm
Yeah.
sure you
So.
would have. I'm sure you would have. So, all right, buddy. Well, I'm gonna end the interview. Don't hang up, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Wow. It's always a pleasure having someone on that I've had on in the past. Randy is a super nice guy. It's very interesting and cool that watching the channel and listening to the channel that he kind of remembered an experience he had, 45, no, 40, almost 50 years ago, 51 years ago. A terrifying encounter at that. I mean, imagine finding this old abandoned possible mining town and getting pelted by rocks and sticks by a dogman, or not dogman, Bigfoot, or a feral person. I mean, his friend said it was a huge man, but I mean, to throw rocks the size of basketballs and bowling balls at a vehicle at a distance, you have to have some serious, serious strength. The hunting incident is terrifying. I mean, you're there with your great nephew, the grandson of your brother who was attacked by a dogman that you killed, and you come up against two more dogmen in the woods of Ohio at that. How terrifying is that? But, like I said, Randy, it's crazy. He has some really interesting and fascinating experiences, and he doesn't feel like they're even worthy of talking about. Super humble guy, super nice guy, and I'm honored to know him, and I'm honored to know all of you guys that have come on the channel. I've met some of the greatest people since I've started this channel, so thank you all. And with that, please stay safe. Please watch your surroundings. Be hyper vigilant of everything around you. And may the Great Spirit watch over us all, and may He guide us down that path that, well, we call life.